So our car is throwing oil pressure sensor circuit, and we're going to replace that oil pressure sensor and take care of that issue today. All right, today I'm doing an oil pressure sensor, 2013 Dodge Caravan with a 3.6. So first step is we're gonna have to remove this intake. There's a few bolts up front. I'll show you when I get the hose out of the way, but as you see, we got a bolt there, one there, one there, one there, one there, one there, and I believe there's some on this side. But once I get the intake loose, I'll show you where the bolts are. I'm gonna take this air box off. You can use 8mm, obviously, on all the hose clamps. So I'm gonna take the hose out of the way, and then we'll remove this intake manifold. Once you get the intake out of the way, it's super easy to swap out the little filter off. As you can see, we're gonna have to remove all these bolts. When we get to the front here, if I move this hose, you see we got a bracket bolt right there, and we got a bracket bolt right there. We're gonna have to take both of those out. I believe these are 10s, everything else is 8s. I'll let you know once I get them out there. So I loosened up all the bolts. We got one here. There was actually a clip right here you had to remove to get to that one. Got one here, and then we got one more right there. I had to take this piece off. You just had to take this clip out. The 2 push clips in the back, you can kind of see back, like right here. Those ones just kind of lift off, and then you pry it off the throttle body. Now for these brackets, top bolts are 10s. There's one here, and then there's one directly over here. The blower bolt, I don't know if you can see my wrench here, but I had to use like a deep socket to loosen that lower bolt right there. So I figured I'd show you that. It's a little difficult, but you can see this bracket. So this is the top bolt, which is a 10. Bottom bolt is what the socket wrench is on down there. Kind of see it angles up right there, but it's the bottom of this bracket. It's 13 on each side. I used God, I can't even talk. I use a deep socket on a 1/4 inch. No problem getting to those. But then once you get the lower ones off, you can see you can get that bracket off, and it'll work. Once you get those 2 brackets right there, your next step is going to be unbolt the bracket here, and then there is also one right here. It's hard to see, but there's a bracket right there, and then the bracket literally right there. So once you get those ones loose, you should be able to just pick it up like so. And then I'm not disconnecting any of this crap, because I'm just gonna kind of squeeze in, pull this crap out. And my sensor should be over here somewhere. I think it might be under the lower intake plenum actually. So I'm gonna have to take off that lower intake plenum, because it's where that goes, somewhere towards the back. So let me actually unplug these hoses, unfortunately, and then we'll remove the whole upper intake out of the way, and we'll see what we're working with. Thought it was gonna be a lot easier than that. Unfortunately, we do have to take the lower intake off. So let me get all the hoses disconnected and get this out of the way. I had to unplug this hose, this vacuum line. There's actually a hose that went to the back of the intake from there, and then I had to unplug these 2 plugs to get it out. As you see, there was one hose, second hose, first plug, second plug. Now that we got that out, we're looking at these guys. So it's looking, I don't really need to take the fuel rail off. Those can come with. So it's just gonna be these little like T20s or T15s there. So we're gonna take all those guys off, and then we should have enough wiggle room to lift this piece. And I shouldn't have to fully remove the lower intake. I should be able to get to the sensor. The sensors, if you see the oil filter housing, it goes under this intake, and the sensor's right there at the back of the intake. But looking from here, you're not really gonna get into there. Let's see. Oh, yeah. It's like right there. And for me, it's just not really gonna happen. The intake was all in the way. Now that the upper intake's out of the way, I could probably fish myself in here and get that guy, but why not just take this off and make it way easier while I'm already here. You can see it's definitely been leaking a little bit down there, but that is our sensor right there. So we're gonna take this upper intake off and we'll be right back. We're just gonna do it the proper way for you. Alrighty. So I got all the bolts loosened for it. I did not unplug the fuel rail and I did not unplug the fuel injectors. You can see down here. Oh yeah, I actually got the socket on it. I got plenty of room with that lifted. Now I just need a wrench and I will take it out. But as you can see, it's literally the bottom of the two sensors facing us. With that intake lifted, I got plenty of room to take that guy out. So I'm gonna unbolt it and I will be right back. All right, so as you can see down there, the old sensor is now removed. It's really not hard to get to. If you're wondering for the sockets, so I have a 8-piece sensor socket set, but it's a 1 1/16, and then it's kind of rounded corners. So that's the socket I'm using. The OEM one worked with it, and as you see, the new one clips right on into it. So that would be the socket you need for this, and I'm gonna install this, and then it's pretty much just put everything back together. So let me get that installed, and then I'll start putting everything back. So got a new sensor in, plugged in. Just got to reline all this up right there. Then I'm gonna tighten those, throw the upper intake manifold on, kind of show you in case we run into any issues with like all the mounting tabs, but everything should be honestly pretty fucking straightforward here. We're just gonna pretty much get everything nice and snug again. And like that bolt lines up pretty good. Maybe not. But I'm gonna get all those bolted in and I'll be right back. We'll throw the upper on. Customer declined doing the intake gaskets. Typically when I'm doing stuff like this, I highly recommend replacing them. If you're doing it yourself, you're already here. Don't be the idiot that doesn't do it and then gets an intake leak. But customer wanted to be cheap on this one, so we're not gonna do it. So I got the upper intake installed, everything tightened. I pretty much do it finger tight and then about a quarter turn. I don't really torque stuff when it's that loose. But put the upper intake on and then bolt everything back in, and it's pretty much good to go. But I'll show you with everything installed in case I run into any issues. Upper intake is all in. I got both of the bracket bolts, top and bottom, tightened. All of these bolts here. There is a bracket 10mm right here I got, and there is a 10mm right there in the back of the bracket, like right behind the sensor. Got all those in. We got this plug back in, a little clip in. We got that PVC hose in, and then we got this one back in. Our next step is gonna be getting this guy back in, which is gonna be forcing it onto these little pin things there. So I'm gonna have to lift it. I'm gonna have to get off and put you down to do that, but then we're gonna pull that right into there. Once we connect that, all we gotta do is connect the big PVC hose and then that, and we are all good to go. Snorkel all back in. This PVC line here, it's gonna go in right here, as you see. Whee! And then the hose is gonna go along the top, and it plugs in right here on said air box. Wow! Now everything is back together. Only thing left is to put our beautiful vanity cover back on. Like so, and our repair is done. I'll start it up, clear the code, and they are good to go. So we're all done. We cleared our code. We're re-scanning it. As you see, we got no check engine code right now. Once it completes, we'll start it, make sure it doesn't come back. There always is a slight chance when it's a circuit code that it is the wiring. 99% of the time though, it's gonna be that sensor. So we went with the sensor instead of spending an hour of diagnostic, just because this is 99% of the time the issue. If the code does come back, we can further diagnose a wiring issue, but the sensor is pretty damn common in this car. So we're gonna just trust that it's the sensor. So, as you see, our codes are cleared. We're gonna take it out, and then we will start her up. Make sure our check engine stays off. And we are looking good. If it was the circuit, aka the wiring, it would have realized pretty much instantaneously. So the check engine being off after we're running is a pretty good sign that our repair was a success. God, I'm having issues talking today. But other than that, like over here, subscribe over there, maybe reverse depending on how it uploads the video. But hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for other little automotive tips.